This is Gen X Amplified, episode number 25, and today we are going to chat about all things Walt Disney. That's right. And also how you can turn something that you are truly passionate about into a very successful career, especially in this new media, multi-platform, digital world that we are in today. So, are you ready? Let's do it.
Do the show, write the blog that you would want to read or listen to or watch, and you will find and you will attract like-minded people, and that's how you start building the brand and the business and, more importantly, the community.
Welcome to Gen X Amplified, where we bring you inspirational and entertaining conversations with successful Gen X leaders and entrepreneurs.
This is the show created just for you. The powerful generation between the boomers and millennials to help you amplify your story,
Maximize your impact,
and become Gen Exceptional in business and in life.
Now, here's your host, Adrian Porter.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Amplified, the podcast for the exceptional generation between the boomers and millennials that's dedicated to empower you so you can create massive impact in business and life. This is your host, Adrian, again. And first, I really want to thank all of you for listening in, as always, from the bottom of my heart, for your download and just for being the awesome person, that you are. I'm nursing a little cold here, as you can hear, but I'm excited and I'm thrilled that you're here. And today we are going to bring some magical experiences and conversation to the podcast for this episode, because my featured guest, and I'm so excited, my featured guest for years was an attorney living in New Jersey, but he left practicing law to follow his dream of sharing his love for, get this, Disney. That's right. He is now a highly sought after Disney expert and makes a career at creating unique and valuable content as an author, historian, speaker, and podcaster, all wrapped within the brand magic of Disney. You talk about a dream job, right? He is the host of the top ranked podcast, WDW Radio, and his show has actually been awarded the best travel podcast for 9 years straight. It actually may be 10. I'll know for sure. He is a social media pioneer, influencer, and he connects with his friends, not audience, his friends, through a variety of online social networks. And as one of the leading authorities on Disney, he is frequently, interviewed for his expertise on outlets such as USA Today, The Wall Street Journal, Parenting Magazine, Bloomberg Business, and others. So without further ado, everyone, please welcome my exceptional guest, the one and only Lou Mongello. Lou, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, thanks so much for having me. That was the nicest introduction ever. I should just leave right now. I can't get any better than that.
Oh, man, you're too kind. Hey, as I always say, the introduction is always as great as the introductee, if that's a word. So you only do it justice, man. Thanks for so much for being on the show. I'm really excited. This is, I get a chance to talk about Disney on a podcast. Can you believe it? I'm like pitching myself here, but thanks for being on.
Thank you, man. It should be a lot of fun. And look, I get to talk about Disney every day for the past 12 years. So I feel you when they talk about having fun doing what you love, right?
I know, it's crazy. Speaking of that, so first, before we get into the story, I met you. I've listened to you and I've heard about you, especially as I started this whole entrepreneur, content journey of mine. But I definitely came across your brand, and it's weird when I first heard about you. I was like, okay, who's this expert on Disney that doesn't work actually at Walt Disney World? And then as I got into your story, I was so fascinated. And then I had the pleasure of meeting you in person in Las Vegas, in MX earlier this year. And I came up to you. I think we actually chatted at Pat Flynn's little get together that he had in the lounge area. But, as immediately as I talked to you, I felt I mean, I loved your story, but I thought you were an awesome guy, very fascinating guy, and just really warm. And I appreciate the conversation then, and I so much will and am appreciating the conversation now. So good stuff, man. And I also sat on your panel at NMX, which you talked about the power of podcasting and storytelling, and you really gave some great, valuable insights. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Speaking of Disney, I want to really get into your story about the podcast very much so, but I want you to take us back briefly and just talk about, Lou, that fascinating journey, valuable journey of going from being a lawyer in Jersey of all, my bad Jersey accent, in Jersey, and becoming an expert on Disney. Can you kind of walk us through that journey, if you will?
Yeah, man. I mean, it really starts back in 1971. My parents took me down like 3 weeks after the park opened. I was like 3 years old back then. And we drove there every year, like in the family truckster, like the Griswolds. And I became fascinated by the place and I learned everything I could about it. So yeah, it's about 2003. I'm a lawyer in New Jersey. I have an IT consulting company on the side. And I have this idea of making something once and reselling it, because I was always in the service business.
Right.
Had an idea for a book, didn't know enough to write about the law or computers, and all I really knew about was Disney. And it really was just sort of a personal challenge to see if I could write a book and could I get it published. So I learned everything I could about the book publishing industry, and I really set out to write the book I wanted to read. I love the minutia and the details and the trivia, and there was no Disney World trivia book out there. Found a publisher, signed a multi-book deal. Book came out. I thought that was it. I had a little, brochure website, and then started a discussion forum, which really grew fast and very organically, because remember, this is pre-social media. And I was like, wow, there's a community of people out there. I'm not the only guy sitting in his basement thinking about Disney. 2005, I heard about this podcasting thing, very early in 2005, not knowing if anybody would find it or listen or care, but they did, and I've been podcasting since 2005, and at one point, I literally took the leap of faith, man. I sold everything I had. I left my job, packed up the Honda Odyssey, and moved to Florida, and I've been really talking about Disney and creating content about Disney full-time, not for the company, since about 2007.
Wow. Okay. So that I'm sitting here like that. There's so much to that story.
There's a lot going on.
I know there's a lot, and I definitely want to dig into it even more, because there are so many nuggets there, and just you talk about a story. I mean, you literally could write a Disney story on your story. I mean, just put some different characters in it and all that. So okay, so let's go back. So you started. So obviously, since 1971, you said you're around 2 or 3 years old. You started your journey, your experience with the Disney brand. I mean, head on. You were going to Disney. Was it every year your parents took you?
At least once.
At least once a year. Okay, and you were so you are from Jersey. So you were in Jersey at that, and your parents. So you guys rode from Jersey to Florida.
Yeah, it was magical.
Wow. Okay, so you started that. That love for Disney at an early age, and I guess it just increased. And so what year was the book that you decided to write the book again?
So I started writing it in 2003, and my first one came out in 2004.
Okay, so you started writing in 2003, and at the time, it was just an idea. You just wanted to put some thoughts together, and based on your experience and your passion. And how many publishers did you say you?
So it's funny you said that, because I just moved and I was cleaning some stuff out from boxes, and I found my file that I saved with my 47 rejection letters from publishers and agents that I kept, because there really was no vanity publishing. There was really no sort of print on demand back then. So, but I did find one, and that's all you need is one.
Wow. That is a great lesson for all of you. Don't give up 47 rejection letters, and all you needed was one, and that was one. So after the book, obviously you started to create this tribe, if you will, and people started to recognize who you were and your expertise. And then the discussion forums started to happen, correct, around the book and around the content?
Yeah, about early 2004.
Okay, 2004. And then now this is way back. This is before the real Facebook happened. This is before social media. So you start to create your own tribe, your own brand. You put your foot, in the sand with creating content for Disney, and then podcasting, 2005. Now I remember 2005. And I remember the beginning of podcasting, and it was, I think at the time I was working for HBO, and we had started to do kind of a podcast then, but it wasn't the podcasting as you hear now. So you jumped on board this new media platform in 2005. Now, why did you decide to embrace this new audio thing that you had to download manually on your big like 4 gig iPod that holds like 10 songs? Because it wasn't streaming high speed internet back then. It was totally different. So what made you gravitate towards podcasting and to do what you do?
I was always a bit of a nerd and a computer geek. And when I heard about the medium, look, I realized very early on that the spoken word is so much more powerful than anything that you can read.
Yes.
In terms of conveying emotion and the relationship that you'll form and just how intimate of a medium it was. Again, not knowing how to do it or if anybody would find it, but I realized I wanted to give it a try early on.
And when you started, did you start off, what was the name of the podcast? Was it still WDW Radio, or was it a different name back then?
No, my first podcast that I did for about a year or so with a buddy of mine was called Mouse Tunes. We didn't know what you were doing. We were like, I don't know, mouse and iTunes. Let's sort of merge the two together.
God, I love that. Mouse Tunes. Okay.
Mouse Tunes. Yeah.
Now, did you have to get trademark, or do you,
it's just a mouse thing and tunes and. Okay. Again, we're all learning by doing, right. And that was very much the case in 2005.
What was the format for Mouse Tunes?
So it was kind of similar to what I do now. My buddy and I would get on once a week. We would talk about the weekly news and then have a couple of different segments, and then I would do some trivia and things like that.
Okay.
Again, we sort of found our voice and our sort of cadence as we were going along.
Wow, I love this story. This is so great. All right, so Mouse Tunes 2005, and then did it evolve after that to WDW? What was it? I have to hear these iterations, man.
Oh no,
no, I do. This is too good. Come on.
So listen, when you do a podcast or in a business with a partner, it's like a marriage. It's like a marriage, and sometimes you grow and evolve and go in different directions. I'm being very diplomatic here. Seriously, at one point, I did realize that I wanted to do something a little bit different. And I will tell you, man, I'm a very loyal guy. That was the toughest call I ever had to make, saying that I was ending the show. And oh, by the way, next week I'm starting my own show because I didn't want to lose my audience. Right. If there was a week that went by and it was nothing, they were going to go elsewhere. So I did start WDW Radio the week after Mouse Tunes ended.
Oh, wow. And what year was this? 2000?
2007.
2007. Okay. This is great. So your audience, speaking of audience, so we're talking 2005, 2006, 2007, podcasting audience. What would you say what was your audience back then, if you can remember, like the numbers? Just curious to hear, just relative to what podcasting is now.
Yeah, so this is not meant to be an evasive lawyer answer, because my answer now is if you ask my numbers now, it'd be the same. I'm not a stats guy, and not that I don't know how to do it. I just don't pay close attention to it because it's not important to me unless I'm going to potentially talk to a sponsor. Mm-hmm. So I worry about the people that are listening and not, I've got these guys. Let me figure out how I'm going to grow more. Mm-hmm. The only thing I can tell you, Adrian, is I remember when I first started and we put out our first couple of shows, again, not knowing if anybody would find us because it wasn't at iTunes. You had to put the RSS feed in a piece of software called Juice or whatever it was.
Yeah. And
the first week, I think that we had 250 or 300 people listening. We're like, wow.
That's great.
Yeah. And you think it's not a lot, but again, if 200 people came to your, front door on Sunday night and was like, all right, man, we're ready to listen to what's going on. You're like, oh, all right, now I get the relatively speaking. So it did grow. I can tell you, it did grow into the thousands, and then, much greater than that, relatively quickly. There was a certain sort of virality to it, I think, because we were so new in the space too.
Well, no, and I really I appreciate your perspective on the numbers and your thoughts on numbers. Really do. I think that is a great lesson for those listening in, and just for anyone that's creating content, that's creating a brand. I mean, we all, are looking, especially as business owners, or aspiring business owners, to monetize. But, to create value should be the most important thing. And it depends upon what your goal is. what metrics and KPIs and things you're looking to measure to deem what is a success and what's not a success. That's up to you. But I really appreciate your take on that, because as you mentioned, what I love what you say, you don't really pay attention to the numbers. It's more about, you would, and I'm assuming like you would deliver the same type of content to one person if they were listening in, even if you had 1 or 1 million, which I think is great. But when I think about 2007, and you said 200 and something people, that's crazy. I mean, we're talking about the early stages of podcasting, the early stages of the internet and social media. So for you to create that type of following back then, which brings me to my next thought and question is, were there other players in the space, not necessarily just for podcasting, but whether it's blogging or other mediums that talked about Disney the way that you did, or had that type of relevance outside of the Walt Disney World official brand?
Yeah, so there were other websites. I mean, look, I go way back to like Usenet news groups, and now I'm like showing how old I really am. But there were websites that were pretty well established, had been around for a long, long time, and
Right.
discussion forums and communities were starting to form. When I launched the podcast, or we launched the podcast in 2005, I think there was maybe 2 other ones that were in the space. That number, again, starts to grow very, very quickly. But the thing that's interesting, Adrian, is that while there are a lot of different people talking about the same thing, look, and I feel this way about podcasting or blogging or watching the TV news, whatever it is, you're going to gravitate towards not just the content, but the people that are presenting it. So some people might like the way I present it differently than somebody else, and vice versa. The same way, I say all the time, if you turn on the news at 6 o'clock, whether you watch channel 2, 5, 7, 9, or 11, it's all the same news, but you're watching because you like the people and the way that they're presenting and sort of the voice that they have.
Right.
And I think that was the same way too back then. So the thing about the Disney community is it's incredibly large and very, very loyal and very engaged. They're definitely, we are hungry for content.
Yes, very hungry for content. And you said something that was very, very important when it comes to the how much content that is out there that may be in the same category, maybe talking about the same things, whether you're a blogger, podcaster, author, or even just entrepreneur, business owner. But it's all about how you deliver that content, and that speaks to personal branding, which I think is important. And you actually have developed a really strong personal brand, which we want to get into a little later as well. And I'm thinking about the story that you told and the journey, and you driving in that Honda Odyssey all those miles down south from Jersey. So tell me about that conversation before you got into the Odyssey with your family. I'm just curious, because we love these stories, especially as Gen Xers, and for those of individuals that are in that midpoint of their careers, are looking to maybe start a business or transition to something that they're passionate about, and they may have a family, they may have kids, they may have a significant other. When you decided to quit litigating and embrace and put on the Mickey ears, if you will, how was that conversation? Was it how was the support? And I'm just curious to hear that story.
The story could be told in story after story after story. And what I mean by that, man, is I am only here, and I'm only here talking to you because of the support system I had around me. I was in a practice with my dad, who's like, yeah, man, go give it a shot. I'm behind you. I had a wife who I still have a wife who,
Careful.
has always been supportive. She's never said no, or you can't do this. So as I was flying back and forth from New Jersey, twice a month to research my book or go to an event or whatever it may be, she was always there. And when that time did come, when I said, I think I'm onto something. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I just know that if I'm going to give it a shot and not have any regrets that I didn't give it a chance, 10, 20 years down the road, I need to be in Florida. And just the way all the dominoes had fallen, she's like, okay, you're right, and let's do it. And I literally ran upstairs and started packing right on the spot. Like, I didn't want her to change her mind. But support, whether it's a spouse, your parents, your friends, or whatever it may be,
right,
is so critical. Because look, man, I did have a lot of people who were like, dude, wait a second. You're leaving a 6-figure job, to drive to Florida, to move into a house you've never seen before, to sit in front of your computer and talk about Mickey Mouse for an hour a week and hope that you're going to make money on it somehow. And I'm like, yeah, man, that's like, I love it. They're like, dude, I give you 6 weeks and you'll be back like begging for your work, for a job again. You know, and they still said, you know, like, when are you going to go out and get a real job? You know, so you need to sort of distance yourself from the negative people and surround yourself by the people that you know, believe in what you're doing. And I'm very fortunate and very blessed and very grateful that I have that support system around me.
No, you are definitely blessed and fortunate, and that's great that you and because a lot of you know, aspiring entrepreneurs, especially doing this new media thing with respect to blogging or just living your life through and creating a business online, can be challenging. And for some individuals, it's kind of hard to wrap their heads around exactly what you do. And, you know, when you, like you said, when you start to tell your friends and your family, you know, I want to go down to Florida and sit at my computer and talk about Disney, you know, it doesn't translate to a lot of individuals, you know, as a real tactical job. So for you to get that support is truly fascinating. And I'm assuming, obviously, you had already built up some traction. So your spouse and your family were able to see at least some traction, which helped solidify that belief in you, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, we started to see things happening. You know, I look, unless you're J.K. Rowling or Stephen King, you're not going to retire on writing books.
Right.
But, you know, when I got the first phone call out of the blue from somebody who says, hey, man, I love the podcast. I love what you do. I'd love to sponsor it. What do you charge? And I stared at the phone like I had no idea what to say. There was a wake-up call for me. You know, this is, again, 2006, 2007, whatever it was.
Right.
It was a wake-up call going, wait a minute. Like, I think there's a way that I could, I didn't even know the word monetize existed back then, but I think that I can turn my hobby into a business. And I don't know what it is, but I know that I need to be in Florida in order to be able to execute on whatever this is going to be. So we did have the vision. And fortunately, she had the vision as well. And you know, was there with me when we went all in on it.
Oh, that's great. And, you know, and I'm thinking about this too. It's not like you packed your bags and moved the other way around. I mean, you know, you had to tell your family, we're going to move to Florida from Jersey, you know, even though that's where you were, where your house and home was, you know, that's, you know, you're still going to the promised land, if you will. So there could have been other places far worse than Orlando that you can.
It's a pretty easy sell for the kids. Hey, kids, you want to move behind the Magic Kingdom? All right, cool.
That is so cool. So, all right. So let's talk more about this great brand, this franchise, if you will, WDW Radio. So I'm assuming it's Walt Disney World Radio, and which is a great name, by the way, that you're able to get that. Now, as I think about the name of the brand of the podcast and what you do, how affiliated, or if you are not, you know, what's your relationship like with the Walt Disney World Company?
So when I switched from the stupid name of Mousetunes to something else, you know, again, this is 2007-ish. People still didn't and don't necessarily know what a podcast is. So WDW Radio was a very deliberate, strategic choice. By having the word radio in there, people instantly knew it is some type of spoken word content. I understand what he is doing.
Right.
To be clear, I do not work for the company. I am not paid by the company in any way. I pay for all my own tickets, all my own food, all my own hotels. Whenever I go and do a review, I just go and do it on my own. Other than if I get invited to a media event, that's the only sort of thing that I get from Disney. I will tell you, man, when I first started writing my book, it was very, very difficult because I was knocking on the door, literally and figuratively. Like I was going down to Disney, knocking on the door of the PR office, and they basically said, "Look, man, if you're not radio, TV, or newspaper, you are not considered media." Again, this is 2005.
Yeah.
And I said, "Look, I don't want anything for free. I just want access. I want to make sure that the information in my book is correct and not something I'm getting from a discussion forum somewhere online."
Right.
I continued to knock on that door gently and repeatedly for years, still being told the same thing until they started to understand and embrace what was going on. And I will tell you, man, the first time I got invited to my media event and I'm standing on the red carpet next to a CNN and USA Today and the Today Show and all, that was so incredibly validating to me. And now I have a great relationship with the company. They really have come to embrace what we as third-party content providers can bring to the table. I understand that it is a privilege and one that I am very grateful and respectful of to get access and to get invited to these events. And look, I do a very positive show about Disney for no other reason than the fact that I just flippin' love this place. Like, it makes me happy, and I think that my audience wants to hear about the things that just make them happy about going, especially when they can't get there. So it works out well, and the company's been, very kind to me.
No, definitely your passion and love for the brand definitely comes through in the content that you create and in just talking to you. And, I think about WDW Radio. And for those of you that are listening and may have not, the two people on this earth that have not listened to your show, how would you describe WDW Radio? How would you describe the brand and the podcast?
So I really try to enhance people's enjoyment and appreciation of the parks, whether you are planning your first trip or you are a hardcore fan and want to hear the secrets and the stories and the details. And they're all things that just either connect you to the experience when you can't get there or make you have a better experience when you go.
That's great. And for you to deliver this content, obviously it started, in 71 in your association and how familiar you are with the brand. Now I'm assuming since you moved to Florida, how often do you actually go to the park? I'm curious. How many times a month, or should I say week, or maybe day? I don't know. I don't you tell me.
So I laugh because it's so funny, because I will tell you, man, I literally live close enough that I can see and hear the fireworks from my house.
No. How close do you live to you live like 5 miles?
I live pretty close.
2 miles?
Yeah, probably as the crow flies from Magic Kingdom. Yeah, I'm pretty close. I could be from my front door to the gates of the Magic Kingdom in under 10 minutes.
That is crazy. Okay.
That being said, I will tell you that I don't go a lot.
Okay.
95% of my business takes place right here at my desk.
Okay.
Whether it's researching, writing, the business of running the business, whatever it is. So I'm really only going to the parks, to do research or do a live broadcast or record a segment or, meet friends for dinner. I have 2 kids that are 10 and 12 years old. They don't go every week. Sometimes it might not even go for a whole month because I still want it to remain special for them when we go. And it's not like, oh, really, Dad? Flicking Disney World again? So, we're close by, but there still is something, special about going. Like tomorrow we're going to go for my daughter's birthday because that's what she wants to go. And I think that's a testament to how we approach the parks.
Now, the daughter 10, is that the 10 or the 12-year-old? Or
God help me, she's 12.
She will be 13 or she's turning 12?
Oh, don't rush it, man. She's only turning 12.
I know. Wow. Oh, my God. Yeah, I know. I have how many months now? Oh, my God. I have a 5-month-old daughter.
Good for you, man.
Congrats. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, is it 5 or 6? I can't. It's and I have a 7-year. He just turned 7 actually last Friday. A son, Cameron. So we talk about Disney all the time, and all the Disney stuff, and we're big Star Wars geeks too. So I'm definitely talking about that as well. But that is crazy. So you have a 10 and 12-year-old, 10 and 12-year-old kids, a 12-year-old daughter. And I'm just thinking about their life. How does it sink in to them that their dad, literally, this is what he does for a living, and you guys get a chance to go to the parks? Do you try to keep them grounded as much as you can in the experience, or how difficult is that?
It's been, obviously when you tell your kids when they're 4 and 5 years old, hey kids, we're moving to Disney World, that's a pretty easy sell. Again, timing being everything, we wanted to do it early enough so that they weren't so heavily vested in school and sports and activities and friends.
Right.
So that was a pretty easy transition for them. It has been interesting to watch how they respond to what I do. When I explain to them, half joking, I'm like, well, if Daddy had a real job, he wouldn't be, dropping you off from school. Look, I am so fortunate, man. I get to pick my kids up from school every single day. I have dinner with my family every single night, no matter what. The phone goes down, the computer goes off, and we have dinner together. And I said, if I was a lawyer, this wouldn't be the case. I'd be working 6 days a week until 8 o'clock at night. I'd be super stressed and tired and angry and all this. And I'm trying to impart to them what I realized 40 years later my parents were doing for me. My dad was a lawyer. My mom was a professional but they always had businesses on the side. So I was learning about entrepreneurship when I didn't realize it at the time. And I want them to realize, like, hey, whatever it is that you love, whatever it is that you want to do, you don't have to go to school, go to college, get a job you hate, and then do it on the weekends. And this is what I try and teach people now, is you can take that thing that you love, and I know the word passion's overused, man, but it's true. Take that thing that you're passionate about and turn that into, your profession. You've got the tools and the opportunity to do it. So I'm hoping that they're taking away important lessons that they might not even be realizing.
Now that is great, and such a very wonderful transition to really what I really want to dig into. When you just mentioned the word passion, is get into, I want to talk some tactics here and really hope to create some massive value for this audience, because this podcast, it's titled Gen X Amplified, and my mission and my passion is really helping people that's in that midpoint of their careers, Gen Xers, if you will, like between 35 and 50, really understand, the value of their experience, their expertise, and become better leaders and create a massive impact. And think about the Lou Mongello story, Loumongel. It just popped in my head. I know it was corny, but if you think about your story, you have some great testimonials when it comes to some great facets of business building. Number one, building a personal brand, which you have done a tremendous job around, even though it's just wrapped in the brand of Disney, but your brand is the Disney expert, and you have embraced that, and you have taken great action and executed on that. Building a business around your passion, the second tenet, podcasting, you have become a quintessential podcasting expert just based on the wonderful show that you have created and the awards that you have received. I believe, you've even, I mentioned this earlier in the intro, you've gotten the award for like the best travel podcast, like 9 or 10 years straight, I believe. Even in NMX, I believe you won again for the travel podcast award. So obviously it's a testament to the show. And more importantly, beyond just building a brand, building a business around your passion and podcasting, you have a great lesson when it comes to creating raving fans, and you tapped into something. And I want you to talk to, and for us to really dig into, speaking to that Gen Xer, right? That person who may be one of two areas in their lives. They're either working in a corporate job like you were, like I was before I started doing this, when I was a marketer. But they're struggling with being satisfied with their career, and they have this built up passion around something that they love, whether it's Disney, whether it's this, whether it's writing, whether it's creating, knitting or whatever it may be. And they want to build something around their passion, but they're feeling squeezed, and they're feeling like they may not be at a point in their life where they're able to do that. Can you just speak to that person, just talk about some actionable steps that they can take, especially as Gen Xers in our generation, about how you can take something that you love and build a business around this, particularly in this new media marketplace?
I think there's a huge nexus, man, between, the person that wants to write a book and the person that actually writes a book. Mm-hmm. There's a huge nexus between the person that wants to somehow do something around their passion and actually starts taking action to do that. And I say that in that way because there is for some people a sense of entitlement, like, hey, where's my money? I see other people, how come look, this is, no matter how it may seem that, I'm just, going to the Disney parks every day, it's real work. Like what we do is real work. And being an entrepreneur is a very, very, very scary, often lonely existence. I'm sitting here as I do most days in my work uniform, pajamas, at my desk.
Are they Disney pajamas?
No, they're Spider-Man underoos, but that's okay.
Hey, it's Marvel though,
That's right, exactly. But look, when I said before about having tools and opportunity, we have that now.
Right.
Anybody right now with zero money can start writing. You don't need to have a publisher anymore. You don't need to be given money to go shoot a pilot for TV anymore. You don't need a break to get on the radio anymore. You can become a publisher and write a book and write a blog and start podcasting right now for like zero money. You can create a YouTube channel. I mean, look at the people killing it on YouTube. My kids are 10 and 12. Their celebrities are YouTube stars. They're not necessarily people on TV. So the game has changed in terms of our ability to create content that other consumers will create, I think what you need to do is really figure out what that thing is. What excites you every day? What do you wake up thinking about? What keeps you up late at night? And don't figure out how you're going to make money on it. Don't figure out how to monetize it. Just start doing it. Go find your voice, find the medium that you're most comfortable in, whether it's writing, audio, video, live broadcasting, whatever it may be, and just start doing it and become a magnet to the people that you want to try and attract. Do the show, write the blog that you would want to read or listen to or watch, and you will find and you will attract like-minded people, and that's how you start building the brand and the business, and more importantly, the community.
No, that is so great, and it's something that I am extremely passionate about. That I preach about, that I speak about when I do consulting, coaching, speaking, and just on this podcast. And when I find other individuals like you, and you're an inspiration to me as well. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. You built an awesome brand, and I'm just starting to kind of build the brand of Gen X Amplified, and also my personal brand, and do the entrepreneurship journey. And you're someone that I look to, Lou, as someone that's great to model. And when I think about what I'm passionate about, and it's so true, I can't stress enough, and I would second what you said about the platforms that we have at our disposal. We're living in a time that is unprecedented. And you really can't think about another time where someone can take those passions and experiences and translate that into content without relying on any gatekeepers. And it's something that you've done. You started with the book, you built the community, you have the podcast, the radio show, and you've created this massive brand. I think for some individuals, there's maybe that learning curve. And I find this when I talk to other people that, when you start thinking about these new platforms, where they may say, well, I have the idea, Lou, but I don't understand this whole podcasting thing. What is that? What do I need to a studio in my home or blogging? Do I have the time? And forget about scoping and blabbing. Which I'm now a fan of, and I want to talk to you a little bit more about that. But it's first embracing the technology and the tools, especially for Gen Xers, because other than millennials, some Gen Xers, even though that we were the first generation to really embrace the whole digital landscape, but some of these new tools may be foreign to us. So as I always say, just take the time. If it's something that you're passionate about, that you breathe it, you live it, you dream about it, you have to take the time to learn the platform. And I'm assuming that's what you consult and teach and talk about through your services as well.
Absolutely. And look, I tell people all the time, don't let the tech scare you. It's easy. It's not simple. It's simple. It's not easy, right? Mm-hmm. It's simple now to create a blog in 5 minutes. It's simple, believe it or not, to create a podcast. If you can record and you can publish a WordPress blog, you can publish a podcast easy. Simply, it's not easy. The work is hard. The content is hard. Making sure it's valuable and informative and entertaining is the hard part. So don't let the tech be the excuse as to why you can't start. And you'll find the thing and the way that resonates best, not just with you, but with the people who are consuming your content as well.
No, that's true. And thinking about your business structure too, I forgot to ask you, now, do you have a team? Or do you use VAs, or is it primarily just you?
So for the most part, it's me, but I qualify that because there are some people who are definitely part of the team, and the people say, "Well, what would you have done differently?" I would assembled a team like the Avengers much earlier on. So I have a team now of about 30 blog writers and newsletter editors. We do a lot of charity work. One of the most important things I do is we raise money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation of America. So in the past 10 years, the community, not me, the people around us have raised more than $250,000 to send kids to Walt Disney World. So we have people that help on the charity side of things, on the event planning side of things. And I will tell you, and I only say this to illustrate a point, that all those people are actually volunteers, right? They are part of the community. They want to belong to something. They want to help contribute something. They want to help to see you continue to do what you do. And people are like, wow, volunteers, like, how do you do that? And I say it very easily, man, and I'm only saying this comparison by way of analogy. If J.J. Abrams reached out to you and said, hey, Adrian, would you like to help out with this Star Wars thing and just come on the set? You'd be like, yeah, man, of course. In a much smaller kind of way,
right.
The people who have been listening to your show want to help you continue to succeed and want to be part of it. So sometimes reaching out to your tribe and saying, hey, I need help with WordPress development. I need help with writers. I need help with editors. You'd be surprised how many people will want to come to help. And I do have some VA type assistance as well.
No, that's great. And I know that part of the way, I mean, the main reason why you're able probably to attract those volunteers is because of the content that you have created. You've provided so much value through your mediums when it comes to insights and expertise on Disney. But even just the way that you frame the people that embrace your brand by calling them friends instead of your audience, which is something that I know that you proactively underscore is an inviting gesture. And I think just the way that you presented that, which is a great lesson to any content creator and business owner, is just treat your audience as fans and friends, as opposed to just a number or a success metric. And your show, it is definitely it is a model for a great show. It's wrapped around a really great brand, but you bring your own unique personal brand experience into it. And speaking about personal branding, because we talked a little bit about that, you have done a great job at building your brand around WDW Radio, and also not only just the podcast, but the show, but the Lou Mongello brand. And you do a lot of speaking engagements, and I believe you do podcast training as well, and you're an author. So were you intentional with that, or did it just kind of organically evolve? And if it did, Lou, if it did organically evolve, are you intentional with it now to maintain the personal brand relevancy?
So I was laughing a little bit because when you're talking about personal brand, I literally remember being in my house in Edison, New Jersey, having a conversation with someone, an entrepreneur, and he was talking to me about my personal brand, building the brand. And I was like, what are you talking about? Personal brand. I do a silly little show about Disney World every week. And he explained about, he's like, look, you are very much closely associated with the brand, right? And I'm out building a personal brand. And that really sort of started me thinking about something I had never even considered before. Mm-hmm. As time has gone on, I do understand the importance of branding and brand consistency and brand loyalty and as an individual being so very closely associated with quote unquote the brand and having a personal brand. So yes, now it is very much something that's top of mind. It is something that's very deliberate. And I've just sort of paid attention to in terms of watching where the engagement comes from. For example, it was always interesting to me, like on Facebook, for example, that people wanted to friend me on Facebook more than they wanted to like the WDW Radio page.
Oh, your personal right. Profile. Okay.
Because that's the thing. Going back to what you said before, which is a philosophy, it's what I believe in. You don't treat people as fans. You treat them as friends because that's how they look at you. And I said it for the past 500 plus shows, like we are friends whether we have met yet or not. And I think people understand that. And they want to be more your friend than liking, look, you can like the McDonald's page. You can like, I don't know, the Beatles. I don't even know who's relevant anymore. You could like you could like a band, but I think you want to be friends with the person whose content you are consuming. So that's where sort of the shift in my thinking and the direction of my thinking has gone.
No, that's a great direction in thinking and thinking more about your personal brand and even just your genius as far as jumping on the platforms early. So, you've embraced podcasting since the early stages and you've kept that train running, but you're also very active on live streaming now on Periscope. And I believe you were and when I think about it, I believe you were on Meerkat like as soon as it launched. Even before I met you, I think I met you briefly at Social Media Marketing World, actually, in San Diego. And I think I remember seeing you with your phone like meerkatting. And I think that's right around the time when it launched. So can you just talk a little bit about your thoughts on live streaming as a platform now? And because I believe that it is a great tool for personal brand building because it pulls back the drapes and it lets people more into the personality of the person that's streaming. What's your thought on Periscope? And
so I'm a huge fan, and I've actually been a huge fan for 8 years. I've been live streaming every week since like late 2007. I remember the first time I tried it. And again, my oh so very supportive wife, I was in New Jersey. I said, this new like platform where you can like live broadcast from a webcam. I'm going to go downstairs and try it. I'll be up in 10 minutes. Nobody's going to watch. 6 hours later, she comes downstairs. She's like, what are you doing? And who are you talking to? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just talking. And there's like 250 people watching. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't know. But I realized, and the reason why I did it back then and continue to do it now is because we push out so much content one way. And yes, you can get emails and tweets and comments, whatever, but there's nothing like getting that real-time engagement and feedback. So that was a good thing for me. So I've been doing it. I do a weekly show every Wednesday night, as well as live broadcasts from the parks and when I'm traveling. So when you saw me at Social Media Marketing World, I may have been on Ustream. I was a very early adopter. Like I literally think like day one on Meerkat, and then I went all in on Periscope because of the Twitter backing.
Right.
So it's cool for me to see so many other people jumping on the platform, because I think there's a lot of benefits to it, especially in terms of building a business and brand.
Right.
But I will tell you, the thing that I'm using now, and I just told my audience last week, I have gotten away from the Ustream platform, which I think Ustream missed a huge opportunity here. And maybe they're going to the enterprise space, whatever it may be.
Yes.
But I've started broadcasting on Facebook Live. I have a verified profile.
You mean is it the mentions?
Mentions.
Yes.
Man, I will tell you something. Facebook Live is amazing in terms of quality of the video, the stabilization, the interaction in terms of commenting, and the fact that your Facebook Live video lives in the feed live, it lives on your page live, and then when it's done, the video sits there. So in terms of long-term and short-term engagement and shareability and commenting, again, not being a numbers guy, but if you compare, I was comparing apples to apples, Periscope versus Facebook,
right,
it's exponentially higher.
Wow.
That's a game. Facebook is going to be the game changer that not a lot of people are talking about right now.
No, I agree. A lot of people, they're a little sour on Facebook because of the algorithm change, especially for people that have brand pages. But, you cannot underestimate Zuckerberg and what they're doing, because they have a massive, massive audience, and they are the quintessential flagship social network. So that's great. That's great insight. Facebook mentions, Facebook Live. Don't sleep on that. If you can get that verified account, and I'm assuming eventually they'll roll it out to most individuals, but I'm definitely going to keep my eye on that. Man, I could talk about Disney all day. It's funny. I think about my first experience with Disney. I mean, like all Gen Xers and kids, with the Mickey Mouse Club. And my parents used to order these books. They were the Walt Disney World books. And it had like the book holder, the Mickey Mouse book holder. And my favorite book of all time were The Rescuers. I don't know what it was about, Bianca and Penny and Bernard, but just talking to you kind of brought back those memories from me back in the day, reading the Disney books. But before I wrap up, Lou, I have two questions that I ask my guest at the end of the show. And I'm going to ask you, and it's going to be a little fun, and then we're going to also drop some more value bombs. All right, you ready?
I'm not sure.
No, it's all good, Lou. So if there was a song that would play every time you enter a room or when you walk down the street that perfectly fits your story and the brand of Lou Mongello, what song would that be? Basically, what would be your own personal theme song and why?
Oh, I love that question. And I'm stalling for time because I have no idea.
That's okay, man. You could.
I am stalling because I'd want it to be, look, I'm a very happy, positive guy, and I'm trying to think of something in the Disney realm that would maybe embrace that.
Okay.
You know what? So I'm gonna. All right, I'll go. I'll go Disney World.
Okay.
And there's a song from the Carousel of Progress. Called "There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow." It's one of the theme song it had. Another song is "It's the Best Time of Your Life." Now is the time. Now is the best time. Maybe that's it. Because right now, they only have so many tomorrows left. But right now, like I want people to understand that right now should be the best time of your life. And if it's not, start making some positive changes in order to make it that way. So It's a lame answer, but now is the time. Now is the best time.
No, that is a great. I mean, it's the brand of you. It's so you say it's from the Carousel of Progress. There's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
So I think I switch. It's called Now Is the Time.
Now is the time. Now is the time. Okay, look. How can you not have a Disney? That's a great song. I like getting variety of songs. I love that choice. Now is the time. All right. And the last question, Lou, if there was one tool or resource, it could be a website, a book, an app that you recommend, particularly to Gen Xers, people in our generation who want to build their personal brand and create more impact right now, or even build a business, what would it be?
I'm going to go to the app that lives on my phone and on my desktop, and I use it every day. My business lives in this, and it's Evernote.
I am addicted to the elephant, man. I love Evernote. That's a great choice. You live and breathe by it, don't you?
Absolutely. Yep.
No, it's great. It's a great option. And I when I tell people about Evernote too, I mean, a lot of people, they familiar with it, but as soon as if they haven't heard about it, once they get it, it is a game changer. You have to, and there's certain tips and like ninja things I've started to learn now. Like I started to now coordinate a lot of my notes by tags. Mm-hmm. In addition to notebooks, because you can actually put you can have one note in different tags or something like that. But great choice. And the song again, was it Now Is the Time?
Now is the time. I almost started singing it, but trust me, man.
Come on,
I know my strengths and weaknesses. Singing it's my weakness.
No, it's great, man. Lou, this has been a great magical conversation. I love. In all seriousness, I've had great guests on I've been very fortunate to interview great individuals, entrepreneurs, leaders in our generation, and to be inspired by them, and also share my love and passion for new media, podcasting, and just helping people. And I tell you, when I meet individuals like you that seriously that came from a traditional, occupation and vocation, as far as being a lawyer, in Jersey, and tapping into something that you have embraced since 1971 and built a business and a brand and a career around it, is a magical story, and is very inspirational. And that's what this podcast is about, for people to hear stories like yours. It's someone who not only is happy at doing what they're doing, but have executed. And so for those of you that are listening in, I mean, really think about a lot of the things and the tools and the tactics and the insights that Lou has provided about building your brand, building the passion, embracing these tools, just doing it, just executing, but more importantly, treating your audience as friends and just creating great content. If you can do all that, you will be successful. And I definitely encourage you to really check out his show. Lou, this has been awesome. If you can let everyone know the best way they can connect with you and keep in touch with all of the Mongello magic that you have going on, what is the best way they can reach out to you?
So all of the Disney stuff that I do lives at wdwradio.com.
Okay.
My personal site is loumongello.com. That's where I talk about speaking and mentoring and small group mastermind coaching. Mm-hmm. I'm also at Lou Mongello on all the social profiles, and that's probably the easiest way to find me.
Awesome. And for those of you who are, and a lot of my audience and Gen Xers are on Facebook, definitely check out Lou on Facebook Live when he pops on, and she'll be delivering some great Disney content, or maybe just some content on new media or whatever the case may be. But I'm sure you would be getting some great content on the whole Mickey Mouse gang. Lou, it's been a pleasure. It's been so awesome chatting with you, man.
Hey, man, thank you so much for having me. I really love what you're doing. I dig the enthusiasm and the passion, man. So thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Take care. Okay. That was Lou Mongello, former attorney, New Jersey resident, and now a very successful entrepreneur, consultant, speaker, author, and Disney expert. That's right. He is the host of WDW Radio, your Walt Disney World information station. I like that. I like that title. I want to thank Lou for chatting with me on Gen X Amplified today. Great guy. You talk about pursuing a passion around something that you love. Wow. And out of all the things that you could do, that you could be making a living from, all things Disney, I mean, all day, every day. Come on. Great stuff. So for all of you Disney World aficionados, definitely check out and subscribe to Lou's show, WDW Radio. And if you haven't traveled to Disney World, or if you're looking to go for the first time soon, you will definitely get a lot of value from his content. Great story, great guy. And if you want to read the show notes and get the links to the resources we talked about, definitely go over to genxamplified.com/025. And you can also get my new and free PDF download that I put together. It is called 10 Tools Every Entrepreneur Needs in This New Media Marketplace. Definitely check that out. These are the tools that I use in my business, and a lot of things that Lou and I talked about how you can turn your passion into a business in this new media world. Definitely apply. So definitely check it out. So that will do it for me in this episode. As always, my exceptional Gen Xers, go and build your brand, amplify your story so you can create massive impact and influence in business and life. Thank you so much for listening, and all the best to your success. Take care.